Hey there. Today I want to talk about a ChatGPT prompt, a fairly simple one that I used several months ago that has, I don't want to say revolutionized my content publishing business, but it's helped a ton. And I can't pinpoint a dollar figure, but it's got to be at least $25,000 per month, probably quite a bit more, because it really did change a lot of how I'm going about this whole publishing business. Now, this prompt will work whether you focus on social media, whether you still publish a website, whatever. Even with videos, it would work. I'm certainly no video expert. I'm not throwing that out there, but the the prompt applies to content. So if you are a content creator, this will help. And chances are you've probably done this. Maybe I'm late to the game. Maybe I discovered this way later after everybody else did. But anyways, I found it super helpful, and I still do. I still have iterations of this as I grow my business. So here's what was going on. This is several months going back. So this isn't something I did last week and I'm just getting early results. These results are month after month and they're growing and consistent and it works. So basically what I have multiple different types of what I call content types or content topics that I publish on. And I'm always trying to add more because when I add more, I add another, basically a building block to my publishing business. And I don't usually I don't remove one, I add to it. So my volume goes up and up and up. But sometimes I do have to remove one because it's not working and it's not profitable. Okay, so this is what I encountered. I had let's call it a content block or content type that wasn't doing very well. The ad RPMs are weak, the engagement wasn't great, the traffic wasn't great. It just wasn't working, it wasn't profitable. Eh, I didn't ask why. I didn't even really investigate. There just wasn't really anything I could do to it to make it better and to make it work. So I didn't want to just cut. It was probably maybe a sixth of my overall, maybe a fifth of my overall content volume. I didn't want to just chop that out and just leave it at that. I wanted to replace it with something that would work well. So what I did is I basically went to ChatGPT and I said, okay, well, my site is X, and it was very familiar with my site and what it and then, but I wanted to make sure, and so I put in there, I published content about A, B, C, and D. I think it was more than that, but whatever. I said, topic D is not doing so great. I want to stay in the same vertical, but I need to publish content that is both engaging and will earn really high ad RPMs that will replace content D. Please list out 10 options. All right. This is, I have used Claude and ChatGPT and probably others over the I don't want to say years and years, but maybe the last year or two, asking, for specific content topics. All right, but this was veering. This is the first time where I really veered toward business advice, publishing advice, how to help my overall business, bigger picture questions. So the results were mixed. I mean, I knew right away some were really bad. But what was interesting is it listed out a couple that were really good, and I was familiar with the topics, but I never consider, and I knew they were really high ad RPMs. I knew that, but I didn't really consider them ever to be high engaging. But ChatGPT, as it often does, will add way more to an answer than you're asking, and it gave examples for each one it listed. And it was, in fact, if you want to use the prompt that I just went through, I would add to that, list out 3 examples for each topic so that it'll do that. It'll probably do it anyway. But anyways, it did it for me, and that was good because I saw the sample ideas for this particular topic that a few jumped out, but one really jumped out that I wanted to do because it was pretty easy content to produce. And so I saw that the examples, and they're really clever, and I knew they were high earning too. And I never thought about it that way. So I immediately got to work. Now, the next half of this video is I'm going to explain my process from idea to publishing to basically handing off into a automated workflow. Okay, this is exactly how I do everything. So I start by working really, really hard, creating what I call prototypes. I create the articles myself, and I test many different types. And so I'll start, and at this point, like this particular content type took me at least 6 weeks, maybe 8 weeks of testing, particularly because the visuals were, I need to dial in the visuals. They weren't just Shutterstock images, they were different. And they took a lot of work, and I had to figure out how to like speed up the process as well as find the exact type that we're working the best. And for every prototype I created, I published and I did my usual thing, and then I looked at results. Now, the reason I pursued this in earnest was when I did the first prototype, and it wasn't perfect, it was decent. I just wanted to get it out there like that day. I'm impatient when it comes to this stuff. It works for me. It also can be bad, just like pretty much anything. But the good thing is I get stuff out the door really fast. And so I got the first prototype out, and it did work. It worked really well. And then unfortunately, I had to wait 2 days for Mediavine to post the RPM results for that URL. They were high. So ChatGPT delivered big time on this one. And that was pretty cool. So I figured definitely worth the time to invest. So I worked on making the articles not just decent, but as good as I could. And that took a lot of time. So anyways, I tried different angles, different titles, different visuals, different write-ups, very different write-ups, different sections, everything that goes into an article, I mix it up and try different things. And that took several weeks. And I was testing them. And as over time, I was monitoring results, and I distilled it down to really coming out with a type that would work really well. All right, so overall, generally consistently, yes, there were duds, but generally I got lots of engagement or eyeballs. I got high ad RPMs. This was important, and I knew this right out of the gates. That's why it was a topic I chose. But it was one that there were unlimited topics potentially within this sort of content type. It was basically a concept that I could replicate. A really simple example would be is if you're in the travel niche and you write best pizza restaurants in Los Angeles, well, you could replicate that by best pizza restaurants in San Francisco and so forth. So that's really important because I want to be able to, not just create 10, I want to create hundreds or thousands of this particular article and do so without me being involved, where I could just basically have my team create this and understand exactly what topics to do and just do it on a set schedule. So, and lastly, what I had to assess, and I assessed this fairly quickly, is it has to be content that I can do a good job with given my team, my resources. It's going to be economical. There is some content that is just simply, it's not that I couldn't create it, it's just that it's either going to take way too much of my time or it's going to cost way too much money and it's not economical. I know what my content is going to potentially earn. I know that. And so I know really what I need to budget for it. So I pay close attention to that, and that's important. Anyways, this was a big winner, but this is a big winner on a much higher level, which was really cool. Is it really kind of became the focus of my site in a lot of ways because of the high ad RPM angle. And I basically redid the whole infrastructure of my site in like navigation and other things. Do I know for sure that increased ad RPMs across the board? It's doubtful, but I really like the new angle, and this is something I never would have thought of. And the content that I'm still pushing out from this is working really, really well. Well, since then, I've used ChatGPT not just for content ideas, but for pretty much everything I do. I will run it by ChatGPT. It could pertain to ad RPMs. It could contain to website architecture. I'll even ask it SEO questions, even though I don't really get any SEO traffic. But I've got this faint, off in the distance glimmer of hope that one day SEO traffic will reappear. I doubt it will. I still get like 3,000 visits, maybe 4,000 visits a day. So it's not like it's completely dead. So I got that slight glimmer of hope. I'm not putting any money on it, but once in a while, just for fun, I'll ask ChatGPT. I haven't really acted on any of that information it's provided, but I do ask ChatGPT a lot of business questions and publishing questions. It's been a huge help. Thanks for watching.